So I didn't know what I needed to be talking about until last night. And I tried to write some things down, but too many things to write down. So I'm just going to kind of wing this story. Vietnam was not popular, right? They've already talked about it, and how horribly our veterans were treated when they came home. But there were positives, as Vance talked about, that came out of the war, and that is thousands of children who were fathered by these amazing people who chose to serve this country. And I'm one of them. I'm John's daughter. And there's so many uncertainties when you come out of a country like that and you're raised. I was raised by wonderful people. Don't get me wrong. They gave me every advantage that they could. But I still didn't know my real birthday. I still didn't understand why I never grew above 5'3" on a good day, right? Like my brother and sister, or why I didn't have blonde hair and blue eyes, like most of my classmates. So I was kind of a naughty child. You act out on that. But as I got older and got married and had my own kids, I felt like they deserved to know their heritage. So I did go back to Vietnam twice. The first time was a whirlwind tour with a nun who worked in the orphanages over there. I got to see kind of where my life started, where the building was that I was probably born in and abandoned in. The orphanages where I spent the early part of my days, and it was lovely named Rat Haven, so you can understand the kind of conditions. In 2010, I went back with other adoptees. This was not organized or formal, other than we were all there. And this was the start of DNA, the ancestral stuff. And we all got our test kits and we were excited, but I wasn't really excited, right? I had 2 strikes against me, right? You go to Vietnam, I had to pay an extra $200 to get in because they didn't believe I was born there. Right? You meet up with other Vietnamese adoptees, most of them who were full-blooded Vietnamese. You don't look like us either. I don't look, So I took the test, I sent it in, but I didn't pay for it until the late summer of 2011. And 4th cousins here or there, not close enough to match. I did match finally in November of 2011 with a second cousin. Now, to understand that, Vicky is my cousin. Her son is my first cousin once removed. His son is now my second cousin. So you share this huge lineage. It is not as close as you think, but I did meet them. She gave me a list of last names that could be associated with me, but I had no idea who my father was. So I had to work backwards and forwards, and it became an obsession. And there were days where I cried and I threw things, and there were days where I was just too tired to continue. And in December of 2011, I decided that I needed to take a break. It was an all-consuming thing. And when I say all-consuming, I'd go to work and think about it. I would come home and think about it. So finally, I started again in January of 2012. And I thought, I'm looking for somebody alive. I'm looking for that person that I can walk up to and say, oh, you're my dad. Then I backed off again, right? Because do I have a right to walk into somebody's life and say, hey, you might have gotten drunk one night, and guess what? Right? They might have a family, and did I have that right to disrupt that? So I started looking on the Vietnam War site, and I knew that most of my matches were from down south, and I knew where I was born. I had 2 things going for me. I was born in Da Nang. Most of my matches were from down south. Being a nurse, I guess I was a little lucky. I could talk about or think about with other nurses and technology how premature I could have been. What's the latest I could have been born? And I decided that my father had to have been alive after November of 1972. So backwards and forwards, I looked at every name starting with A. Where were they from? What year were they killed? And where did they serve in Vietnam? As you can imagine, it was quite daunting. And on January 25th of 2012, I came up on John O'Neill Rucker. Wow, he was from the South. He was stationed in Da Nang. Clicked further, people could leave comments. Somebody had left a comment about a party. And I thought, I'm gonna just Google this a little bit further. And pulled up this picture of him holding a chihuahua. And I was like, wow, that's kind of like looking in a mirror. I think I found this after months. So, screenshotted the picture. I sent it to my mom and dad, who I did not know were sitting on a chairlift skiing, and my mom says she opened it and about fell out of the chairlift because I look like it. I found May's number, my grandma, my Mima, and I sat on it all day, and I wasn't sure, do I call? What do I do with this? We're 2 days away from the anniversary of his death. I don't know what to do. And my then husband came home and just dialed the phone and handed it to me. So, and I'm not going to ding dong ditch anybody and hang up. And this sweet lady answers the phone, and I didn't know what to say, and I was like, "Is this May Rucker?" And she's like, "Yes." And I was like, I told her, I said, "My name is Tia McConnell. I'm calling from Denver." I said, "I'm not selling you anything." She goes, "Good, because I'm not buying." And I said, "Ma'am, I'm so sorry." I said, "But I have reason to believe that your son John is my father." And I was waiting. I was waiting for the phone to hang up. I was waiting for some maybe not so nice words. And instead I got a very long pause. And she said, "I've always had a feeling." So that was my journey to finding these lovely people. But there is so much more involved in it. It was a labor of love on the military's part, on these strong, strong females who went to a war country and opened orphanages and made sure that we were safe as we could be. So I didn't come out on the baby list, which are really popular, and that's what you would hear about. And that happened in '75, and the first plane that took off crashed, and there were many lives lost, children, caretakers, and military. The nurse who found me was on that flight and went on to do amazing, great things in other countries, but she is the one who named me. She is the one who sent my parents letters when they found out that that's where I was going to go. So it was a labor of love. She begged a helicopter crew to fly me to Saigon to safety in a box under a jump seat in a helicopter that was taking live fire. I sat in an orphanage for months with, from what stories I hear, bombs going off, which is probably why I don't like thunder and lightning to this day. But everything in my life played a purpose of who I am today. And I told these guys last night that I use words like adopted family, biological family, but when I was answering some interview questions, I realized that 1 in a million shot, one person maybe in a million, is going to be lucky enough to be loved by so many people that they are all family. The AC-119 is my family. The Ruckers are my family. The Whittiers who adopted me are my family. And it's a very rare thing that somebody would ever get to be loved that much. So I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank my father. I don't know him. I know the stories. I know what people can give me. And that has to be good enough. And I just pray that he's with us and that I've done things that I should have done in my life to make him proud. So thank you.
Wow. Don't want to follow that.